Hello, thank you for watching my channel today. My name's Sarah and my channel is called Your True Shelf. And today I'm making a video about the rest of the books that I've had on my shelves since at least 2011, which is when I started my Goodreads account. So I know that some of them have been on the shelves even longer than since 2011, which is quite ridiculous. I already made a video of some, I think the first 10 of these books, which was called It's Been a Long Time, which I can link in the notes down below. So these are the rest of the books that I've had since 2011. I might not be able to get through them all. I'll see how much I waffle on, and I am going to have to, when I finish doing my prize reading for the welcome prize, I'm going to attack my TBR, and these are going to have to be first on the list, otherwise they're going to have to go. Right, so the first one I've got is The Sisters Brothers by Patrick Dewitt. I got this because I love the podcast Books on the Nightstand. They talked about this book a lot. They gave it a very high rating, and all I know about it is there were two brothers whose surname I believe is Sisters, and I think they're kind of gangsters, and I'm not sure if it's set around time of Prohibition or if it's sooner than that, I'm not sure, but it kind of reminds me of God, what's it called? There's a film Tom Hardy's in, Lawless. It just makes me think of that a little bit, and so I do really want to read it. I don't want to unhaul it, so convince me of these books that I need to get to them quicker. The second book is Snow Falling on Cedars. You can just about see that, by David Gutterson. This is another book that I got as a result of Books on the Nightstand. This is about, I believe, a Japanese man. So the death of a fisherman on a Pacific island turns into a murder trial for a Japanese American, and test of passions brewed since Pearl Harbor between two heritages, claustrophobically locked on one dot of land. This is supposed to be fantastic, and I've also bought another David Gutterson book without having read this one, based on the fact that I think I really like it, because I'm silly like that. The next one is I Think I Love You by Allison Pearson. This is a romance book. I read her first one, which is called I Don't Know How She Does It, and I really enjoyed that. I read it when I was probably still at school. And that was turned into a film with Sarah Jessica Parker. So then I bought this. I saw her talking at an event. So this is a signed copy somewhere. Yeah, so she's signed it for me, and I just haven't got around to reading yet. Partly I think because it hasn't got the best reviews on Goodreads. Oh, but it's about so it's set in the 70s. And it's about two best friends who are wanting to meet their teen idol. And then it skips to 24 years later and what they're up to. This is a whistle-stop tour. So the next one is by an author who's very prolific, but I've never read before. And that is One for My Baby by Tony Parsons. I think I saw an adaptation on TV, and I really wanted to read, not of this, or one of Tony Parsons' works, or something that he'd screenwritten, and I wanted to read one of his books. A lot of them are part of series, so I wanted to get one that's not, or this might be the first in a series, I can't remember. I'm doing really well at describing this one. But yeah, so it's basically about a man who lost his perfect woman and his second chance at love. And I thought that'd be really interesting, written from a male perspective, because often it's female authors who write that kind of romance story, and so I wanted to read something by a man. Next is time for a classic. So the next one I've got is Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy. I love these cloth-bound classics. It's absolutely beautiful. It's very heavy, which is one of the downsides of reading these. Obviously, we all know kind of we've all heard of Tess of the D'Urbervilles. I watched the adaptation on TV with Gemma Arterton, which I thought was fantastic, and that's what prompted me to buy the book, but it's sat on my shelves ever since. So again, another classic. This time we've got Sons and Lovers by D.H. Lawrence. So I watched an adaptation on BBC. I can't remember which one it was now. There was an adaptation by D.H. Lawrence, and I then bought this because I wanted to read some D.H. Lawrence, and it's very thick and very small writing. You can see. I think that's what's picked me off and why I haven't got to it so far, but I'm sure it's probably really good because the TV adaptation was brilliant. Next is probably going to make some people gasp in horror because I've never read this author before, even though she's very popular, and I've also seen her speak at a literary event, and that is Rose Tremain, Trespass. So I own this one, I own another one called The Road Home, and I own the Gustav Sonata, and I've read none of them. This has been on my shelf for 8+ years now. It sounds really good when I read the back. Set in south of France, it's about an isolated house. It sounds really up my street, yet it still languishes on my shelves. Next is one I know I got second hand. I'm not really sure why I got it because it sounds really kind of trashy. But maybe it's good, I don't know. It is Spellbound by Jane Green. I've never read anything by Jane Green. I know she writes those sort of romance novels, and this is basically about a woman who her husband is having an affair. She doesn't really want to leave the life behind that she's built up with him. She doesn't know what to do. So I've never read Jane Green. If anyone's read Jane Green or they've read this book, let me know if it's any good, because I've got a feeling I might be getting unhauling this one because it just sounds a bit, like I say, a bit trashy. Next is The Book of Tomorrow by Cecilia Ahern. I've had this one for a very long time. It's a magical realism book about a travelling library that comes to her village. There's a book on the library which it says what she discovers within the pages takes her breath away and shakes her world to the core. A story about how tomorrow can change what happens today. I really love the cover of this. This is a coverless or jacketless hardback, but it's really gorgeous. I really like that. Her books are really quick to read, so I could probably read this in a couple of days. And then I've got one more Cecilia Ahern book. This one, A Place Called Here, about the disappearance of somebody's classmate when they were at school, and then another missing person and later on, and how are the two connected. So again, lovely cover. I really like the cover of that one as well. I love the pink and the sparkly bits. Then we have All Things Censored by Mumia Jamal, which is a collection of essays. 79 writings by Mumia, who is been imprisoned for a crime that I believe he never committed in the first place. He was on death row. He's now being downgraded to life without parole, and he is an author and journalist who writes from prison. I've read 2 of his other books, which have been fantastic, and so I don't know why this has languished for so long, but it has, like the others. We are nearly there now. Next is Freedom by Jonathan Franzen. I bought this because the Guardian Books podcast at the time was raving and raving about this book. I kept hearing nothing but good things about this book, and I got it, and I haven't read it because it's very thick. I'm a little bit scared of it. I'm a bit intimidated by it because he seems a writer that is a bit intimidating. It's a story of a family and betrayal and relationships, and I really should just give it a go because it might be one of the best things I've ever read. Who knows? This one, I got given this. This is The Other Family by Joanna Trollope. Oops, avalanche just happened over there on the floor. This is about a family with 3 daughters. The dad is no longer there. I don't know if he's died. And then they find out that the dad is still married to his first wife, and it basically goes through how, I think he must have died, and it talks about the practicalities of wills and things and how the 2 families have to face each other. This, again, I was given, Small Wars by Sadie Jones, and this has got quite a long blurb. This talks about a soldier who is goes to Cyprus, and his family are transferred to Cyprus as well, and I think the family is ripped apart by his wartime duties. I've then got a couple of medical based books. This is sort of like a cult book amongst doctors, The House of God by Samuel Shem. This was written in, I don't know, 70s, 80s, 1978. I think it's probably very politically incorrect in the way that it talks about patients, but it's supposed to be hilariously funny and a very real account of what it was like to be a doctor in that time. And I think it's probably like the Adam Kay of the 70s. And I think it's going to be really funny. I just have never got round to reading it yet. I don't know why, because I probably should have read that ages ago. Confessions of a GP by Dr. Benjamin Daniels. A Year of Life, Death and Earwax. That sounds about right. This is basically anecdotal stories about his patients over the years. Again, another sort of similar to Adam Kay type book, I think. I haven't even opened it. I don't really remember where I got it from, but I probably would find it really funny and interesting. And then the last two, I remember when I got this next book, I was really excited to read it. I don't really know how I came across it or anything, but I haven't obviously read it. And it's called Leaving the World by Douglas Kennedy. On the night of her 13th birthday, Jane Howard made a vow to her warring parents she would never get married and she would never have children. But as Jane discovers, life is a profoundly random business. And it talks about when she does meet a man and she does get pregnant, and then she has a devastating turn of events. So it sounds quite interesting. And then the last one is To with Whittaker, The Diaries of the Countess of Ranfurly, 1939 to 45. Basically, this is about a man who is the Count, I guess, of Ranfurly, and his wife. He's taken prisoner in the Middle East, and his wife basically travels the world for 6 years on her own during the war, trying to get him back through some very dangerous places. And these are her diaries. And this sounds like so good. I think the cover's a bit boring, but there's photos in here as well. Sounds like a really interesting one, and one that probably no one's ever heard of. So that was my absolutely enormous list of the rest of the books I've had for at least 8 years on my TBR. Please convince me either way whether they should stay or whether they should go. Tell me if there's any that you read. Tell me which ones I should be putting up the pile. I really need to focus on these big time, because I'm desperate for shelf space, and I am going to buy some more bookshelves, but I know they'll just get filled up too. So I need to be a bit brutal, guys, and I'm really bad at being brutal, so help me out. And thank you for watching if you've stuck with me to the end, because it's been a long video. And I hope you're having a lovely day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.